Hello, hello, hello. You are tuned into the Rocker Dog Podcast, the podcast that has the bragging rights of being the only show that talks to musicians about their dogs. I'm your host, Tim Dill, along with the inspiration for the show, Charlie, my golden doodle. And today we welcome to the show Oliver Baxxter, lead singer of the band Broadside, whose new album, Hotel Blue, comes out November 10th. And this is his stubborn rocker dog.
So I have a miniature dachshund. His name is Leo. He's currently buried underneath blankets. This is his prime nap time. So yeah, he's amazing. He's 3 years old. He was a COVID puppy. So the hardest thing, as they already naturally are wild barkers at anything and everything, is it took me a lot longer to introduce him to people and faces, not with masks on them.
Right.
So he's a little bit just weirded out by the general human population. But the verdict is out on whether that just might be a dachshund trait in general. So,
Okay. Well, I was looking up, we've had one guest before with dachshunds, and I was impressed at how, athletic they were. And, they were originally used to, ferret out badgers and holes and stuff like that. That's awesome. And I was going to say, is he a burrower? So you just mentioned that's how he sleeps.
oh yeah, he's a huge burrower, and he loves a routine. So we really work perfectly. It's funny because I'm the one to get upset around certain things, like, really, you need to go out right now, blah blah blah. But realistically, I've set that goal for him, and now he just shows up every day. So it's pretty funny.
Has he brought anything home, like a dead rat or a mouse yet?
So
Or is that a daily occurrence?
yeah, it's more like so it's funny. We're here in South Florida, so there's a lot of little lizards, and at first he was very darty with that, but he's learned to accept that they're a lot faster than he could be. So now he's just getting his eyes on squirrels and thinking that he could just run up to them and run up the tree, which is it's just hilarious because he's only that much bigger than him. So it's it's a hilarious thing to imagine. But funny enough, when we introduced him to another puppy dachshund, he was totally weirded out by it and totally saw it as prey. So it was actually kind of scary and dangerous because it was very, very territorial. And I was like, okay, which opened my eyes. Luckily that nothing happened, but it opened my eyes to how a situation like that I definitely should avoid in the future because it freaked me out, for lack of better words.
Well, like you said, interesting. You had him actually. If my notes are correct, you got him just before the pandemic, correct?
Exactly.
Like February of 2020.
February, exactly.
So as you alluded to, he didn't have contact with people. I assume he didn't have contact with other animals. So he did probably have this sheltered puppyhood, in which now you have to. What led up to you getting him in the first place?
So my mother actually knew of somebody that had dachshunds, and their mom was pregnant, and she was like, oh, you've always wanted a dachshund. My mom's had dachshund in the family for a while now. And she was like, one of the people that was supposed to pick up the last the puppy dachshund fell through, and they're not going to be able to home it, and I'm not going to be able to have it here. Oliver, this would be an opportunity for you if you wanted to. So it was kind of like, I don't know, Mom, am I ready for this? And then I went to go see him, and when he was still just so small, and I just fell in love, and I just couldn't believe that something this small could fit right here on me, and I just felt an immediate connection to him. So yeah, as soon as he was able to come home, when we got him geared up, and all my money goes into him now. So it's a beautiful relationship.
You've got a place to spend your money. How funny.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't, when I first went to your socials, you had him listed as a mini dachshund, which I didn't even realize existing. So I'm like, how much smaller can they be? And I guess they can be pretty small. I mean, is he about under 10 pounds?
Yeah. So he's even large for a mini dachshund. So he's around closer to 13.
Okay.
But yeah, they're supposed to be around. They can get really small. I have friends with them that are super thin, and he's active as well. He's just kind of got a bigger chest, a broader chest, so that adds a little bit of weight on him.
And were you surprised at your reaction to him? I guess there is a quote that you said that I never knew how much I needed his company in my life until the very first night that you held him like a baby.
Yeah, I Oh, I love that. I still feel that way about him because I just couldn't believe that I would just go to a grocery store and somebody cared that I might not come back from the grocery store. That was like the first time I'd ever experienced. It was like, okay, I'm looking at a beast, sure, but I'm also looking at like companionship in the most pure, unspoken form.
Right.
And it really blew me away. Yeah, I think I'd never really experienced the joy of that sort of, oh, you came back, thank God. It
Yeah.
just blew me away.
Let's celebrate as if you just got
Yes,
back from a 2 year tour of duty in Iraq.
exactly. He's like,
Well,
oh, my hero.
I've been meaning to ask artists this question because I know,
Yeah.
a dog offers unconditional love and, like you said,
Hmm.
companionship. But as an artist, as someone who has a public vulnerability, is there anything else about a dog that is unique that adds value to who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I like the idea that we get to see how they structure their life around what they understand and the only thing that they understand. Though dogs experience emotions, and I realize that the way that they don't use emotions to encounter everyday things, how they approach their food, when it's time to take a nap. Like I'm sure it's just amazing how like humans struggle to make such simple decisions, even to the point where we'll punish ourselves if we thinking too much or overthink or abuse the idea and ability to think. I feel like that's probably one of our biggest flaws is that we overthink ourselves into oblivion sometimes.
Right.
Um, so it's really cool to me to watch him think that he is the master of his world. And realistically, he's just a small, fragile little beast. But in his brain, he's got it all figured out because at this time I do this. This is how I eat. I have this DNA that makes me want to hunt down this animal, but I also have this DNA that says the person that I love, I need to lick his tears away or lay with him until I feel the heartbeat slower. It's I didn't teach him to do that. That's just his own way of expressing to me, and I feel like I don't know. It's really cool to just watch love exist in an animal, much like us, the animal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's a privilege to get to not be in control of that, but to observe it almost as if from a godlike perspective.
All right. Now,
Mhm.
are you a reluctant dog guy? Just going back to your mother approaching you and saying, "Hey, here's this opportunity." Whereas
Mhm.
if that never came to be, maybe your fiance would bring it up somewhere down the road. But
Yeah.
where were you in the scope of dogs at that point of your
So
life?
so I was it was incredibly selfish because I was like, well, I record vocals at home. I do a lot of like creation and hands-on stuff. I lay stuff out on the floor all the time. I like to work my hands, whether it be concrete or building something. So I didn't really plan like to have to watch out for a small little mouth grabbing bits and bobs of everything. So, but my fiance, she grew up with dachshunds as well. So it was one of those moments when it was like kismet when we all saw her and I saw Leo. It was like, oh, this is me also getting to connect to a part of you as you were a child.
Right.
And that also added another layer of like, oh, I feel a part of a family now because she has this connection to dachshunds and like their loving style breed. And she had a dachshund in the family that had passed away while we were out in LA doing our thing, acting wild and free with no dogs on the brain. He passed away, and it affected her in such a way that I think it was like, hey, we should give this guy a home and see how it goes. And now my truest fantasy in the world is to make enough money to have a farm and just have as many dachshunds as I can. And just literally, I don't mind having 40, 50, 60 and let them run the farm. That's
Yeah.
that's my dream. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting there myself. I do a little bit of volunteering, and it's all about space. So it's like, gosh, if I could just have a farm,
Just the space. Yeah.
all these guys seem to get along. Let's just let them go crazy.
Yeah.
So did
I
you
love
you
that.
mentioned your mom had the dogs. Did you grow up
Mhm.
with those dogs, or was that kind of post kids? Post
That
kids,
was
let's have dogs to fill the void.
absolutely. It was a post kids void fill. less Christmas presents type of situation.
I often ask about training, and I
Mhm.
noticed you had made a comment on one of your posts, and you had a commenter say, "If you ever need a trainer, I got you." And I believe she was a trainer just by her name. And you said, "Oh, I do." So I'm wondering, did you get professional help?
So what I opted to do is what I always do is just order a bunch of books and a lot of like learning manuals, and I actually entered the process of training him the way that I would see them train on YouTube and then in the book. So understanding the basic command with like reworking on of the backwards chemistry, right? Of how we teach dogs, of like you don't punish the behavior, you reward the good, right? So and like going in with that tactic, and it changed his personality significantly. Only thing is, we're worried, or we're the is part is the like the barking, but that's just one of those things where it's like, sure, I definitely need to get that under wraps eventually, but he understands quiet. I think he's just disobedient. I think he's a bully sometimes to me.
Well, I have stubborn as a note to the breed.
Yeah, exactly. And he like wants you to know that he understands it, you know. It's sinister.
Do you share that trait? Are you stubborn yourself?
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah. Even the fact that somebody offered free training service and was like, I'll just spend $100 at Barnes and Noble. It's kind of stubborn.
and do your bandmates have any dogs? I didn't notice any on their individual
No, no, no. They don't have
Instagrams.
any dogs. Yeah.
And your social circle, have you become the dog guy, or have you still maintained a certain semblance of a normal human?
So I I think normal human because of Leo's breed and because of the schedule. We leave, but yeah, when people come over, it's certainly time to pet Leo. And Leo wants that known, like, oh, if you're in my chair or my couch around my kitchen, it's time to pet the dog. So it definitely changes that. But luckily, all my friends are dog people. Like dog, they love them, they embrace them, and bring him treats. So it's kind of we got a system going on here. He somehow tricked my entire circle into bringing him stuff from Target and everything as they come over. So luckily that, and I also have a close friend of mine, and she has a very skittish dog who was involved in like a really traumatic incident. They lived up in New York where a dog had escaped and ran up and kind of attacked her dog and then attacked her.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so she had to go through this really wild PTSD recovery because her dog Noah was always on the fence with everything after that, which rightfully
Yeah, yeah.
so. So she's got a very skittish dog. So also we have that in mind. So when she comes over here, our dogs have not met because for the very same reason of Leo is oh, back off. And if a dog is like offended or, like ready to, is like a trigger, we haven't risked that. So luckily, I am able to have that type of communication in my life as well as like, oh, let's spoil Leo.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say it's well balanced.
Okay. Just hearing his name again, I usually ask this up front, but does his name mean anything, or where'd that name come from? Is that picked out of thin air with a cool name, or is there any backstory?
So it's just my favorite actor, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Okay.
And I just thought it'd be cool to be Leo.
Well, it's all about traits. Does he have any trait? Is he dramatic? Does he
Right?
have
Yeah. Oh,
any
he's an
share any?
actor. He's surely an actor. But yeah, no, he's just my little handsome boy. When I put sometimes we get him a little, wet coat or whatever to stay warm or to stay cool and he just flaps it open. I'm like, there's my little Leonardo, looking good.
Well, with the stubbornness and the actorness, is this dog on brand to who you are and maybe who you are as an artist?
I would say 100%. Like, if I ever reach a level of success where people look back and throughout history and go, "Oh, that was great," I hope that they will have pictures of me and Leo, like some of my favorite artists with their dachshunds, just hanging out. I hope that they'll see that and be like, "What a man and a dog." I really want that to be a part of who I am. I
Yeah.
think in this time. Yeah.
Well, I happened to go upon the American Kennel Association, whatever it's called, the Association or Council, and they have a great
Mhm.
video introducing the dog, and they do mention how it's Picasso had a dachshund, Warhol. There are a number of artists that actually not only
Right.
had them, but then it showed up in their art. So it's interesting to
I love that.
to see that, that little dog have such a big artistic
It's,
expression, throughout history.
exactly.
On the notion of brand, when you first got him, I noticed you started Sausage Leo on
Hmm.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Did you have grand ambitions with that?
I really like the idea of I have too many pictures in my phone and I really would like a place to go back and reference whenever somebody was like, can I see him as a puppy? And I think there's been this idea that I want to eventually get into a place where I can work with companies, charities, and just get involved with the idea of breed specific, just because I continue to learn more about it. And every time I come across a dachshund and dachshund owner now, I find myself talking to them for hours, just asking them about certain things. So it's definitely a passion of mine to get involved in that at some capacity, when a little bit more of my time can be allotted to that sort of thing, because I definitely have a passion to do something in the space. It's not really quite clear to me yet.
Yeah. Well, once you get that farm up and running, it'll all fall into place.
Thank you. Yeah,
But I do ask that because I feel like, I mean, I spend a lot of time on social media just because this is where I find you guys, this is where I find the musician dog lovers.
for
But
sure.
there's so many times that you see, I'm just making this up, but it's like Betty the Beagle, and Betty the Beagle's got 500,000 followers,
Yeah,
and it's almost
exactly.
like, is that all you need to do is pluck it on Instagram and suddenly you've got the followers and probably endorsement deals. So I wanted to ask that question because I feel I never tried it, but I've had that, my wife said, we got to make one for Charlie. And it's like,
Oh
I
yeah.
think it's a lot more work than just throwing it up there. And obviously the people who do it well have videos and do it very well. But I was curious to ask that question because I did notice you had a pup box and a couple of them. And it's like,
Oh yeah.
was there an ambition to get like some
Some sort of like,
endorsements, something to get it rolling? And
oh yeah, anything to make those pup box cheaper, I would do that for sure.
yeah, 'cause I know.
But
Now,
yeah, no.
go ahead.
Oh no, that was
Okay,
it.
okay. Moving into, I normally title this as any drama, but I noticed you built a ramp for him, and you
Hmm.
mentioned something about a back, and then if you go through the comments, I see a lot of commenters saying, "Oh yeah, my dog suffered this back problem," and since I'm not an owner of a dachshund, but do they have back issues? Is that something you need to be well aware of?
So it's like almost severe, like 40% of dachshunds end up with this. And it's IVD. It's like IVDD or IV, I forget what it is, but basically the idea is the hind legs lose because of the structure of their back. They lose I'd say, intention and integrity, like the strength, but then also they have slip discs like
Mm,
nothing. And it could be from walking up the stairs to like jumping. And that's where the stubbornness really plays the curse, because that's where I focus in on with this training. I have a ramp in my bed and a ramp on my couch, and we're constantly like ramp to this day, even though he knows how to use it. It's so like we live on the third floor, we carry him up and down the stairs. It's just like it can happen like that. Now, a lot of it comes to, is his diet right? Which again, luckily, through power of social media, I'm able to follow all these dog people, and next thing you know, I'm buying all these powders and this and that and this to make sure his upkeep is there. But it it terrifies me because I've I've met a few dachshunds with the back problems, and it is, you can't even touch them, they can't walk, and they ultimately end up in like wheelchairs and that sort of thing, because the hind legs, the slip disc, it's reversible once he gets diagnosed, um, but it still just continues to get worse because the impact of that back and the length of it is just, it's a gnarly thing in the dachshund world.
yeah, gosh, I never realized that. And does he,
Hmm.
being a 3-year-old dog, so he's kind of in his teenage years, does he want to be more athletic than maybe his body allows him to be?
Very, very funny you asked that. Yes, and that's exactly what we're experiencing now. Is he's a catch kind of guy, and so we take him to the park, and then on Sundays, we've noticed last time we would throw the ball, his hind legs would just start to, and what happened is he's just powerhousing so hard that he's actually overworking his body because of the stimulation that he's getting. So we've been finding out new methods to play with him. Like obviously he can still be active, get the ball, but he turns it into like a blood sport almost and overworks his body. It's insane. It's like you're doing too much. But yeah, it's a whole thing. And I'm being a some would say I'm being dramatic because I see some people just pick their dog up, however, but I don't know. I've seen it in real life, and it's just it's terrifying. It's sad, and it's if you
Yeah.
can prevent it, why not? You know, why not?
Well, as a human with back issues, gosh, I can't imagine a dog, especially the physicality of that particular breed.
Exactly.
I noticed you've taken him hiking and camping. Is he good on that? You know, and I guess in the same, kind of in the same conversation, you know, again, he
Mhm.
wants to be physical. I noticed you did have a backpack with him in the back at
Yeah,
one point, but I'm
yeah.
curious, how was camping with him? How is hiking with him?
So the hiking with him was exciting. He was so excited to be outside that he didn't even seem to notice the people that came by, or he would just, breathe at them and just no barking, completely happy. The camping, however, skittish, like very not into sleeping in a tent to a point where we actually ended up. We have a Jeep, so we just folded down the back and just ended up sleeping in the car to prevent the noises from Leo because he was very on edge, which makes you feel safe, but you're also like, hey, that's clearly the wind. But yeah, I'm looking forward to do more hiking with him. It's something that I really want to do. Just like, mile long hikes and stuff like that. I feel like, but the backpack comes in handy because he lets you know when he's done. He sits, he plops, and he's like, I'm done. So you just have to scoop him up. And then less than a minute later, he's like, all right, I'm ready to go. So, yes, I let him run my life.
Yeah,
This is
hey,
me. This is my confession.
that's you know, that's par for the course. That's
Fair
all of
enough.
us. That's all of us, and whether you're a musician or a layman, you're all slaves to the cuteness.
That's fair.
How would Leo describe you if he was sitting across from me? What would he say? What nice things would he say?
I think he would say, I love that my dad worked from home so I can just sleep on top of him at all times, even when he's at the strange desk. And I think he would say, I like hanging out with my dad because I do two tricks and get treats. And I got to share this. I got to share you with this. I've
Okay.
built this place up on my patio, and this is just for Leo. Let's
This is
see how
actually
I
leading
can.
into my next question. My next question is going to be, what's the biggest indulgent you bestow on your dog?
So
So you
this
got
is
like
his little
the
day bed, and this is just his little zen. And he just looks out and barks at all the people going to school. We have shrines for him.
nice. That's awesome.
But yeah, I so yeah, he dictates my life.
And has Florida been his residence his whole life?
So for the first part, we were in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
But but yeah, his growing and establishing has been here, which has been a whole nother thing just because of the weather. It's pretty gnarly all the time.
Yeah, I've got a couple guests that actually have moved, you know, north to south. So I'm always interested
Mhm.
to hear the change in the dog. But I guess Richmond still gets pretty hot,
Yeah,
as far
for
as I
sure.
know. He's just in a warm weather all the time, and you're cognizant of how hot it is at certain times. And
And then the thunderstorms, like during we're gonna hit hurricane season, and that's when you start to see the dog because he's like just terrified. Yeah, no, we got the literal thunder vest and
right, right.
everything.
Fourth
But
of July as well.
oh yeah, and especially down here, they like to celebrate
Yeah,
9 o'clock in the morning.
yeah. I was going to say, and a week long.
Exactly. Unfortunately.
I've been blessed. My dog is he could care less about any noises or fireworks. He just wants the delivery guys. But some of the struggles I have are just walking him day to day. You know, it's like you either
Sure.
got to get up
Yeah.
first thing in the morning
Or like
or right
later
at
afternoon.
sundown.
hmm
And he's really never seen snow. I think yours has seen snow. There's a video I think maybe on your wife's Instagram
Yeah.
where he
Oh
experienced
yeah,
snow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we experienced snow. It was the most exciting week of my life because it was the first time my fiance and I got our first car ever. So we did the whole dealership plunge into the world. The band started doing okay, and then on the same hand we had a puppy, and then on the other hand we were experiencing things like, oh, look at the snow. So I just felt like I was really winning at life. So those memories are really good to me.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. Well, I wind down the show with what I call the zoomies, and that's the
Okay.
5 rapid-fire, fast, zoomy questions. The first one,
Okay.
which a lot of times I know the answer because I see it online, but I don't know the answer, and that is, do you kiss Leo on the mouth?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Kisses all day.
Okay, good. That's the correct answer. I don't always get that. Question two, if Leo had a theme song, what would it be? And that could be one of two things. It could either be a song you've created for him, or it could be a song that reminds you of him or really suits his personality.
A theme song for Leo. Let's say that's a great question. I think he's so like superhero. I think like a Batman theme because he's kind of like mischievous. He's kind of always walking around and his ears are always flapping, but he keeps his forehead tilted forward, so he's kind of got this like on the prowl look. But he feels like he's a superhero, so I feel like the Batman theme song would be great for him.
Okay, that's funny. I can see that. I can see that from what I know of Leo. I know you don't take him on tour or to
Right.
gigs, correct? If he did go on tour and to gigs, what would you add into your rider specific for him? Or what would he demand be on the rider?
What would he demand? Yeah, he would demand, he's like, yeah, my dad is vegan, but I'm not. So I need some chicken. I need some, let's see what else he would demand. He would demand a new hoodie every day so he could fall asleep at some point. And then let's see what else he would demand. This new pad that dad has found where he's like frozen bananas and all these other frozen things to keep me distracted all day. I feel like he would be like, I need a frozen pad every single day at the venue and with local fruits to
Yeah,
your
local, fresh,
surrounding. Yeah, exactly.
farm, farm to green room.
Yeah, delivered on the backs of other dachshunds, please.
Yeah. Okay, question four is, do you have a dog voice? Do you speak to him in a dog voice? Do you give him a dog voice?
Yeah, we give Leo a dog voice, and it's kind of I don't know, like that kind of voice. It's not really. We just like to, you know,
Yeah, it's
lighten his
a
whole
nice,
vibe.
small, demure voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
Like he's just our cute little baby lost in the world, even though he knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, even though he's a vicious rat
Oh
killer.
yeah, exactly.
Last but not least, question five is there a dog organization or service that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, actually, there is two. So there's the Dachshund Rescue of South Florida. It's a big it's a website you can go to and you can get resources for a lot of things, as in how to foster a dachshund that may need that, ways to train, and then also like tips on getting ready for post and pre and healing. There's even nice sentiments of like a poem where they share, like the loss and like a number you can call to like grieve. And then also through them, I found a company called the Rolling Dog Project, and they show you slash build it for you wheelchairs for dachshunds out of PVC pipe. So it only costs you about $50 as opposed to some of them which would be up to six, $700.
Oh, I can
And,
imagine. Wow.
and so I'm a fan of the cheaper alternative, but also the way in which you could teach someone too, because as we know, the vet bills can be absolutely gnarly with that type of thing, and it prolongs and betters the life with just pieces of plastic. So those two, I think, which you can find out the Rolling Dog Project through them, is what I found
Right.
out.
Okay.
But yeah, just a particular, and sorry to be so selfish with the breed, but it's just near and dear to my heart. So
Yeah, hey, that's, that again, that's par for the course. A lot of people, zero in on that breed. I'm very
yeah,
interested in learning more about just the difficulties they may have as they age. Even that there's a resource that makes
right.
these. I'm curious to know what, either percentage or what age do you need to start being cognizant of, having your awareness of what's going on.
Yeah, I've been doing my research as much as I can, and they say like after three is when it starts to, just because of age and wear and tear. So that's why I've like recently included things like salmon oil and other like things to start like bettering his digestive system, bettering his and not even like joint repair as much as, I don't know, just kind of hoping that some of these natural things will really are par for the course on top of proper engagement with him and treatment and the right amount of exercise and just keeping him at a certain weight, because the dog can overeat. That's another
Yeah.
problem with the breed, right? So I'm just trying to stay on top of that, but it's a challenge because they'll eat anything they find. So it requires a certain lifestyle. And
Yeah. I don't have that problem. I struggle with getting my dog to eat at all.
interesting.
So, but be careful. I'm always saying be careful what you wish for, because I'm like, God, I wish you
Oh
would,
yeah,
I wish you would chow down. But it's like I get he
that's right.
never, he never eats off our table or scraps or anything. Before we depart, I just wanted to throw out one more thing. And I know before you get the farm
Mm,
up and running with hundreds of dachshunds running around, would you ever consider a second dog with Leo?
yeah, I definitely would. I'm waiting for maybe one more step in my life to come to fruition, and then I'll feel like I'm ready to bring in another dog for Leo, just so he can have a companion as well. I feel like two dogs feels good where I want to be in my life. So I'm
Right.
waiting on one or two more things to happen, and then I feel like that's without a doubt bound to happen.
Okay. Well, interested to see, and good luck with those reaching those goals.
Thank you very, very much.
Well, Oliver, thank you for taking the time. I love meeting people like you that are dedicated to their animals and, are unsuspecting. They fall into the dog trap, and it's always a pleasure to hear the stories, and thanks for taking the time.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate you taking your time as well. And like I said, man, this is a beautiful backyard I'm looking at. So
Oh, thanks.
congratulations. Well, I hope you have a good rest of your day. And again, thank you for your time.
Hey, my pleasure. You too. All right. Thank you to Broadside frontman Oliver Baxxter for coming on the show and giving us a bigger picture of his dog Leo. Broadside's new album Hotel Blue is out November 10th, and they'll be on tour supporting This Wild Life for 28 dates starting on November 1st. Oliver chose to give a shout out to Dachshund Rescue of South Florida, who are a 100% volunteer run and 100% donation funded organization of, and I quote, just a bunch of people who love doxies enough to forego sleep and probably retirement to make sure they find good homes. To adopt, foster, or donate, visit dachshundrescuesouthflorida.com. Information on the Rolling Dog Project he mentioned can be found on the same website, dachshundrescuesouthflorida.com, under More and Resources, but the Facebook link included was disabled, but the link to step-by-step instructions on Flickr are still available. As for a bit of housekeeping, we'd love for you to subscribe to the show and give us a rating and review on iTunes. We'd also love for you to follow us on Instagram, where you can see photos and videos of our guests and their dogs. Please join us again next week for a great new episode starring a well-known comedian who has recorded 2 legit music albums, so tune in to discover who that could be. All right, it's time to punch out on this job. We'll see you next time.